All right, let's just jump right in with one of the most powerful, most challenging lines in all of American literature. You got to understand, this isn't some friendly advice. This is a challenge, a line in the sand drawn against the very idea of just fitting in.
And the man who drew that line was Ralph Waldo Emerson. So today we are going to deconstruct his 1841 bombshell, Essays First Series. And we're going way beyond the quotes you see on motivational posters, you know? We're getting to the absolute heart of his thinking. Because this isn't just a collection of nice thoughts. It is a revolutionary manifesto for you, the individual. And believe me, its arguments are just as radical today as they were almost 200 years ago.
So here's our game plan. First, we'll look at the world Emerson was pushing back against. Then, we'll unpack his big ideas, self-reliance and the oversoul. We'll trace his incredible influence, face the biggest criticism of his work, and then we'll wrap it all up with a thought experiment that pulls Emerson right into our world today.
Okay, so to really get Emerson, you have to get the world he lived in. You have to understand the intellectual cage he was desperately trying to break out of. See, the early 1800s were all about rigid tradition. Truth wasn't something you went out and found. It was something you were handed down.
I mean, just think about the pressures back then. You had the cold, hard logic of the Enlightenment on one side, and then in his own backyard, you had this very structured, very proper form of religion, Unitarianism, that was basically the law of the land. And into this pressure cooker walks Emerson, a guy who had already quit being a pastor because he just couldn't conform. This is when he dropped his intellectual bomb.
So the whole battle really boiled down to one simple but huge idea. The common view was that truth comes from the outside, from books, from history, from society. Your job? To get in line and conform. Emerson's rebellion was to flip that whole thing on its head. He said no. Truth is inside you. It's in your gut, your intuition. And if that's true, then your job isn't to conform. It's to be a nonconformist.
And that leads us straight to his most famous and probably most misunderstood idea, self-reliance. Now, forget the whole pull yourself up by your bootstraps cliche. That's not what he meant. For Emerson, this was a deep, philosophical argument about truth and what it means to be human.
So what is it really? Self-reliance is the radical, no-holds-barred trust in your own gut feelings. Not because you think you're so brilliant, but because Emerson believed that your intuition is literally a direct phone line to God, to divine truth. And if you believe that, then you have to reject what society is trying to tell you.
And this is the heart of it all. Trust thyself. Every heart vibrates to that iron string. That's not a suggestion, it's a command. That little voice in your head, that hunch, Emerson is saying that is the sound of the universe speaking directly to you. And look, he wasn't just being poetic. He lays out a pretty clear-cut logical argument. Premise 1. Your soul is plugged directly into universal truth. Premise 2, society is just static on the line, always trying to cut that connection. So what's the conclusion? The only way to be a real, whole person is to tune out the static and listen to the source. But why? I mean, why should you trust your gut? Where is that intuition even coming from? Well, that question takes us to the engine room of Emerson's whole philosophy. He called it the oversoul. And honestly, the best way to think of it today is like a spiritual Wi-Fi network or a divine cloud server. It's this one single universal mind that we're all connected to. It holds all truth, all genius, all goodness. And every single one of us, you, me, everyone, is an inlet. We're not separate little computers, we're terminals that are always logged in to the main server. And that is the game changer right there. Because of the oversoul, you have access to everything anyone has ever known. What Plato has thought, he may think, right? Genius isn't about making up something totally new. It's just about having a better connection, listening more closely to that universal signal than other people. Suddenly, trusting yourself makes perfect sense, because you're not just trusting you, you're trusting the source code of everything. Now, this universe isn't just chaos, it has rules. And one of Emerson's other big ideas is the law of compensation. Think of it like physics for the soul. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Every single game has a cost. Every strength has a weakness. It's this tough, realistic idea that keeps his philosophy grounded. Okay, so you can see this wasn't just some abstract stuff for a philosophy class. These ideas landed like a meteor in 19th century America, and honestly, we're still living in the world that impact created. You can literally draw a straight line from Emerson's essays to so many world-changing movements.
His buddy Thoreau took the idea of non-conformity and created civil disobedience. Nietzsche read Emerson and it helped him dream up the Ubermensch, or Superman. The whole American myth of the rugged individualist, that has Emerson's fingerprints all over it. Heck, even modern startup culture. Trust your vision, disrupt the norm, pivot when your gut tells you to. That is pure, 100% Emerson. This line from Self-Reliance just says it all. It's his theory of how the world changes. He believed every big institution, every religion, every empire started as a single thought inside one person's head. One person who dared to listen to that inner voice. And then the world had no choice but to reshape itself around them. But, okay, let's be honest for a second. This whole philosophy, it's also kind of dangerous. It's got a potential dark side, and people have been pointing it out since day one. So we have to tackle the biggest criticism head on. And here it is. This is the big question. If everybody just does whatever they want, if they trust themselves and ignore society, doesn't that just give everyone a free pass to be a selfish jerk? Isn't it just a recipe for chaos? Right, this is the #1 misunderstanding. The critique makes sense. It sounds like a perfect excuse to justify greed and narcissism. But Emerson's defense is absolutely key. The self in self-reliance is not your ego, the part of you that wants a promotion or wants to cut in line. It's your soul, your connection to the oversoul. So your ego might want to be selfish, but your true self, the one tapped into universal truth, understands things like justice and fairness. In Emerson's view, a truly self-reliant act can't be selfish, because by definition, it would have to align with universal good. Okay, to wrap this all up, let's put these ideas to the ultimate test. Let's take Emerson's 19th century ideas and plug them straight into our 21st century world with a little thought experiments. Just imagine for a second, what if the internet, all our AIs, all our connected devices, what if they all woke up and they merged into one single global mind? A literal technological oversoul that holds every piece of human knowledge, and we're all plugged into it all the time? I mean, what would that even mean for us? Could you even have an original thought? Or would every idea just be a search query? That intuition we feel might just be a high-speed download from the network. In that world, what would non-conformity look like? Maybe the only truly rebellious act would be to log off. And would this system follow Emerson's law of compensation? For every bit of new efficiency, do we lose an equal bit of our freedom? And that leaves us with this final, kind of haunting question. Emerson's entire philosophy rests on the idea that the oversoul is good, that it's divine. But what if it isn't? If your mind is just a channel to a bigger consciousness, does it really matter if that consciousness is divine or digital? It's a question Emerson never could have imagined, but one his work forces us to ask today.
This is for entertainment and educational purposes only.